I got a microphone for Christmas, so prepare to be sick of me. Hello, fellow readers. My name is Mel. I'm the Equal Opportunity Reader. I read everything through a multicultural lens informed by Blackness, and for some reason that I don't fully understand yet myself, my first read of this good year, 2026, is this Once Upon a Marquess, which is a Victorian romance novel about two awkward white people in England. Okay, hear me out. This book is by Courtney Milan, who is one of my famous romance writers and who is, first of all, biracial herself. She's Asian, Chinese, and white. And second of all, I've never read anything from her that is about a white couple. I mean, everything that she writes is either about Asians or about interracial couples. She really writes well about historical people of color in romantic situations in very empowering and historically interesting and accurate and nuanced ways. Um, so I was expecting this to be that, but then I open up the book, and so far, this is two awkward white folks, which is not my usual wheelhouse, but I'm curious to see how this author handles it, so I'll go ahead and finish the book. Now, this is historical romance, and I am a globalist nerd, so one of the things that I like to do is situate myself in history when I start to read a historical romance novel, because I kind of want to know what else is going on in the world at the same time that our main couple is doing their thing. So, this book is set in London in 1866. That's right bang in the middle of the Victorian era. Now, to put that in context, in the US, that was only a year after the Civil War ended. It was the early Reconstruction period. The Civil Rights Act and the Choctaw Treaty were being debated and contested and then eventually signed. China was in the midst of a series of interethnic rebellions, and it was also the height of the tea trade with the British. But the world is not just the US, England, and China. If you look at the broader context, Peru and Chile were going at it with Spain in those years. Um, Italy and Austria were at war most of that year, and technically, neither Italy or Austria existed in their modern form at that time. They were very different. French troops landed in Korea, of all places, to get their lick back over some French Jesuits who had been executed after daring to step foot into the Hermit Kingdom. And that was the first interaction of foreign military troops, Western foreign military troops in Korea. Dynamite was invented in 1866. Finland was going through a famine, if I recall correctly. And Butch Cassidy, Beatrix Potter, and Sun Yat sen were all born in that year. And somehow, in the middle of this, two awkward middle class white people are agonizing over their crush on each other. It's kind of hard to take it seriously. But honestly, this is kind of what I like about romance. It reminds us of something very essential about humanity, and that this exists in every situation and every time period through history and modernly. I have a good friend who's a historian, and he always says to me, people get pregnant during every war, and he's right. Anyway, so I said before that it's two middle class white people, and that is true, but I find that often when writers are trying to inject some difference into a situation between two people who are ostensibly the same in a romance, they afflict one with poverty, usually undeserved poverty, especially in historical romances. So one of these people is disgraced and has lost her fortune and is quite poor, and the other one is the opposite. He has made his fortune, he's quite rich, and they have to figure out how to love each other across the financial gap, which when I was younger I thought was a ridiculous plot point, but boy, did age teach me differently. I'm less than 100 pages into this book, so I don't have a lot more to say about it yet. I'll update you as we continue, and certainly at the end. But one other thing I want to mention before I get further into this. Now, like I said, Courtney Milan, one of my favorite romance writers, is herself biracial, Chinese, and white, from what I understand. Um, and it's interesting because she's writing about white people with both compassion and stereotype so far, in my opinion. Here's why. There's kind of a stereotype. It's a stealth stereotype. It's not one that's shared openly very often, but it's the stereotype that white women will endure any type of man, no matter how awful he is, as long as there's money involved. And so far, this book is not beating the allegations. And let me tell you why. The plot of this book, Once Upon a Marquess, you have your titular Marquess, who is disgraced and in poverty because her father and her brother were convicted of fraud. Her father was sentenced to death. Her brother was transported to Australia. This was also a thing happening in 1866, by the way. Um, And the person who is was responsible for uncovering the evidence that led to their convictions is the male main love interest. So and she's already like calling him back into her life and asking him for help with securing some financial matters. And I they were friends at one point apparently in the past, and they were engaged at one point in the past, but I find it interesting that it's very clearly laid out at the beginning that the person that our main female love interest, our main woman, is supposed to fall in love with the guy who's responsible for the death of her dad and the exile of her brother just because he's rich. That's what it seems like so far. I'm hoping that there's some depth and some breadth and some other things added to this, but right now it's not looking so good, right? The other thing is that I do want to mention that there seems to be some autistic representation, not of either of the main characters, but the main woman character is looking after her younger siblings now that her father is clearly dead and her oldest brother has been transported. And they have not mentioned her mother at all yet, which is, I just realized that actually. I wonder why. Well, maybe we'll find out. Um, but anyway, she's taking care of her younger siblings. One of them is a teenage girl, so her teenage sister is autism coded, I'll say. She has a lot of what we would think of now as autistic traits, and they're illustrated very well and not particularly negatively or stereotypically, unlike the female main character, who apparently is a gold digger. But I mean, in 1866, I don't know if there were that many other options. Anyway, I'm going to continue to update you on this book as I read it. If it stays interesting, if it doesn't, you will never hear about it again. Anyway, peace.